Hey guys, so many of the videos I've made have covered anything from home improvement ideas, gardening concepts, homemade heaters, things like that. And some of my most popular videos have been homemade fertilizers and do-it-yourself fertilizers. And I've noticed a reoccurring question that's taken place as to, do you have a fertilizer you can make very easily that only involves one ingredient? And that is this one right here. And I actually found this on a shelf that I had not used from last season, and so I probably wouldn't use it now. It's probably lost some of its potency sitting in the greenhouse on a very hot shelf that was kind of hidden. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to show you how to make an extremely powerful fertilizer for your vegetable garden, for your ornamentals, from one ingredient. It only takes that one, and once you establish that ingredient, you can get it for free year after year. So I call it a super fertilizer, and many people refer to it that way on the internet. So let's get started. I'm going to pepper in this video quite a few photographs I've collected over the years. Not only is this a super fertilizer, but it makes something very beautiful to go in your yard. Now, the name of this particular fertilizer, it is a comfrey liquid fertilizer. And you might say, well, I don't have any comfrey going in my yard. Well, it's very easy to establish, and you can either start it from seed or you can actually order small plants online. I checked last night and Amazon actually sells small plants. About a 2-week delivery time because it's not being shipped from Amazon, it's being shipped from a small business. So you can either start from seed or you can buy the plants. I'd recommend the plants because you're going to get results a lot faster. The seeds are going to take 1 season to establish themselves to about 3 feet. But once they do establish themselves, comfrey does something that a lot of plants don't do. They actually mine deep into the soil to pick up minerals and nutrients. A 3-foot tall plant can go anywhere underground in its taproot 6 to 10 feet, and that's why it's such a powerful plant to make into a fertilizer, because those leaves contain a massive amount of nutrients and minerals. So that's the thing to remember. Comfrey is unlike any other plant. It's been talked about as a super plant that's prevented starvation in some situations because it was such a powerful fertilizer before commercial fertilizers were even available. So another note on the mechanism of how comfrey works: it acts as like a nutrient pump from the subsoil, bringing the elemental or the elements or the nutrients from deep in the soil to the leaves. So you're going to take the leaves of this plant. You're not going to kill the plant. You're just going to harvest a certain amount of leaves each spring, during the summer, and sometimes even in the fall, to make this super rich liquid fertilizer that acts as though it's a super fertilizer, better than a lot of the store-bought fertilizers. So let me just sprinkle in or pepper in a lot of images as we go through what comfrey does and how to make this special fertilizer. Now, the comfrey leaves are extremely high in potassium, and that makes it really good for your vegetable gardens, whether you're growing tomatoes, peppers, things that need disease resistance and proper heavy feeding schedule. And that's what comfrey liquid can do once you've made it. So just remember that the leaves are the thing that's allowing us to make this comfrey tea, and it makes a huge difference in your vegetable garden. Now, comfrey has a balance of trace minerals, and it contains calcium, magnesium, iron, and other micronutrients that are going to help improve whatever you have growing in your garden. And it's not just vegetables, it can be ornamentals. But the leaves themselves will rapidly decompose. You can also plant the leaves, chop them up in a blender or a food processor, and make them as small as you can. So you're not only doing it as a liquid, you could actually do it just as a leaf. You could take a pair of scissors and just cut the leaves into small pieces. But like I said, they will break down quickly to soft because of soft tissue and moisture content. So the nutrients released very quickly into your soil, or if you're going to make a liquid, into the water. Now, there's natural growth hormones in comfrey. They contain something called allantoin, a compound that stimulates cell growth and recovery. And this is going to help stress plants or transplants. I do that at the end of spring, and I'm going to be transplanting a lot of stuff into the garden once I've passed my last expected frost date. You can look that up online. Just enter your zip code in and enter last frost date. So again, this is going to help your plants once they go out into the garden. If you're getting them in a garden center or grew them yourselves inside of a heated area of your basement or greenhouse, they will rebound quite a bit faster if you use comfrey leaves or comfrey fertilizer liquid. Now today I'm going to go over 6 different methods of using comfrey in your garden, and number 6 is an advanced grower's trick from maybe decades or even hundreds of years ago, because comfrey has been known for a long time. So let me go through those 6 processes. The first one we're going to talk about is creating a comfrey tea or a liquid. So guys, I'm going to put some of my favorite pictures up as I talk here of comfrey, because I have quite a few of them in my video or image library. So again, our first method is going to be what I call the liquid gold fertilizer, and you're going to harvest a large amount of these. Now if you don't have any comfrey now, just buy you some plants, and before halfway through the season you will have a lot of leaves. These plants grow extremely fast, so you're going to harvest large mature comfrey leaves. You're going to chop the leaves finely, as I said just a minute ago, whether you do it with a pair of scissors, a blender, food processor. You want to increase the surface area. Now you're going to pack these tightly into a 5-gallon, 7-gallon bucket or container, whatever you have on hand, and you're going to adjust enough water to cover just the leaves. Now you can try dry fermentation. I prefer to use water. Make sure it is rainwater and not any type of chlorinated water. You want to cover the bucket or whatever container you have loosely. You don't want an airtight seal because gas buildups can occur, and you want to allow the fermentation time to be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And remember, do this in the shade, don't do it in full sunlight. Now I'm going to talk about 3 things that happen when you do this process in your bucket. The comfrey leaves will break down anaerobic, the microbes will break down the cells in the leaves, and it will release a type of nutrient into the water. So we're making it extremely potent from something that's already potent is the leaves. So we're creating a liquid that can get down into the root system of whatever you're growing. Now your potassium and the minerals in those leaves are going to dissolve into a liquid form, and that is another extremely important thing, that we want to make it as available as possible to each plant. Using the whole leaves at the base of the plant is more of a slow release method, but we want a quicker and a much faster growth and fruiting phase to take place. And thirdly, another thing that happens is the enzyme is going to break down the further into a type of reaction that makes it extremely and quickly available to your plants. So the enzymes in this liquid is going to make it super available super quickly. Now the dilution rate is a question I always get, and sometimes I actually forget to give you an exact dilution rate. So I just want to give it, it's kind of a range because it depends on what you're growing. If you want faster immediate growth, or you're just trying to increase fruiting, you might go to the lower side of this equation. But you're going to take 1 part, let's say if you're doing 1 cup of the comfrey liquid, you're going to do anywhere from 10 to 15 parts of water. So you're diluting it so you don't have to worry about damaging the root system, burning anything, causing an issue. And I wouldn't recommend pouring it on the leaves. I recommend just as a soil drench around the base of the plant. And roughly in the beginning of the growing season, I would say about every 7 to 10 days, you're going to do this to speed up the process and make your plants, whatever it be, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, have much more vigorous activity. Now method number 2 is what I call the chop and drop method, and this is going to be where you chop the leaves into maybe a pair of scissors. You don't have to do this in a food processor, but you're just cutting the leaves maybe into 1/2 inch to 1 inch pieces, and you're going to drop it right at the base of the plant and whatever you're growing, tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, and that's going to not only help the plant, but it's going to help the soil as well. Now these comfrey leaves will start to decay pretty rapidly as long as you have a good amount of moisture. You might come in with a misting sprayer and mist them to help speed up that decay process so the fungi can break down and directly into the soil, and it will help both your, as I said, both your plant and your soil. So guys, one thing about the chop and drop method is soil fungi and bacteria are going to digest the soft leaves quickly. 2, they're going to release potassium right at the root zone, right at the soil level. And it acts, this process, the chop and drop, acts like a slow release mineral layer. So that's 3 extremely important things that happen when you do the chop and drop method. So guys, method number 3 is just a liquid fertilizer, but more mild because we're not fermenting it over a period of 2 weeks or longer. This is going to be anywhere from a 4 to 5 day process. Now on this mild liquid fertilizer, which is not going to be as strong as our fermented one, we're going to fill a bucket halfway with chopped comfrey. You don't have to put it in a food processor or blender. You can do this with a pair of scissors or garden shears. Just cut it into small 1/2 inch or to 1 inch size pieces. You're going to add water to the top of your bucket. You're going to steep anywhere from 4 to 5 days and stirring once a day, or adding an aquarium pump to add oxygen. Now this will have less smell than your fermented concentrate that we talked about in method 1, and it provides gentle feeding suitable for seedlings. So if you're starting out and you need something that's less potent and you're worried about damaging your seedlings, do method number 3, not necessarily method number 1, where you have a stronger fermentation, so you don't have to worry about killing your seedlings. So guys, method number 4 is a compost accelerator. Now I've got a video where I made a compost out of a very inexpensive trash can. I'll link that right here. But we're going to use the comfrey leaves as a compost accelerator. We're going to do our browns, which can be our dried leaves from last year, brown, green, inside the compost. So you may have to remove some of your compost and layer this properly. You can use things like mulch and things that are more brown, and obviously the comfrey is going to be your green layer, and this will accelerate the compost and make it extremely bioactive, because of the comfrey itself is so nutritious to all plants, and it will speed up the decomposition by heating up faster. The green will speed up that heating process inside the composter. I found that if I leave my composter in direct soil when it gets above 80 degrees, it gets too hot in there. So I would recommend a partial shade situation on your composter so it doesn't overheat and kill some of the microbes you have growing inside your composter. Now next is a process where you can take the comfrey leaves and turn it into a fine powder. And I like these seed trays. Fill it with comfrey leaves and punch a couple of holes in the top of it, allow some of the humidity to escape, and that will almost bake it on a hot day above 80 degrees. This thing gets superheated above 120, 130 degrees. So you can take the comfrey and turn it into a very nutritious powder that you can sprinkle at the base of whatever you have growing, whether ornamental or vegetable. So method number 6, you're using the comfrey root soak method, and this is an advanced grower's trick from many decades, possibly centuries. But if you're digging up the comfrey roots, chop them up into small root pieces, anywhere from 2 to 3 inches, and you're going to soak those in water about 1 to 2 weeks, and you're going to use this as diluted liquid to help with transplant shock or boosting the growth of the plants. I would say about 1 part of the liquid from this rooting system to about 5 parts water. Now the roots contain concentrated growth compounds, and it's going to help stimulate root development in younger plants. Now I want to give you 3 more quick tips on using this method. Comfrey, when you're fermenting it, it has a very strong odor. So I would recommend not doing this inside your greenhouse, inside of a garage or a small building. Just put it somewhere in the shade. Again, overly heated comfrey liquid can kill some of the microbes. So you want it kind of in partial shade, maybe a little bit of sunshine during the day. But again, this liquid can get super heated and you'll have less benefit from it. Now, as far as the liquid itself, always dilute it, as I mentioned earlier in the video. You don't want to use this at full strength because it can harm the root system of whatever plant you're growing, even established plants. So remember, follow the guidelines for the dilution rates, as I mentioned in the 2 other recipes. Now, one of the best times to use this is going to be your flowering and fruiting stage because of the high potassium in the liquid or in the chopped leaves themselves. So again, if you do reach that stage, you want to put them in there right when you start to see flowers or fruits beginning, because that's going to speed up that process and you'll have much more success because of the potassium, the extremely high potassium that you find in the leaves. So I want to give you some scientific reasons this works. Comfrey itself is referred to as a dynamic accumulator. So I'm going to put on the screen right here some of the things you can expect to take place when using either the dry leaves or the liquid, and it's going to make a huge difference in your ornamental garden or your vegetable garden. But you need to follow those rules that I've laid out before, because you don't want to do any damage to the plants by overstimulating them with too much comfrey leaves, because it is a powerful natural fertilizer. Now in my area, comfrey is a perennial, so which means it's going to die back to the ground once our freezes come in, and then in the springtime start coming back out. So every year it's going to create a slightly larger plant, get bigger, and spread across the ground. So you will have as much comfrey leaves as you want to use. So somebody had asked me about that 1 ingredient fertilizer, and other than the rainwater, it truly is a 1 ingredient super fertilizer. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you have a question about this video or any previous video, I hope you'll become a public subscriber first, because I tend to put those questions to the front of the line. I get anywhere 100 plus comments and questions a day, every day. And when you have a full-size greenhouse to operate, you have vegetable gardens, ornamental gardens, and a life outside of the garden, it becomes extremely difficult to answer all those questions. Also, I have a Patreon. If you're interested in downloading PDFs and other materials, please become a member of that. And that truly helps support the channel grow, because it gives me more motivation to work even harder on making videos. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. Have a great day.